Well, good evening, folks. This is Dave Schmidt. I'm your host here again tonight on the Cosmic Connections. I want to thank everybody for joining us here tonight. And for those of you that are already here on Facebook, again, there's about a 20-second delay, but I'd love to see your comments to make sure all the sound is coming through okay. And with that, also, we want to say, Blanca, how are you doing this fine evening here on the first day of September?
Well, we're in September. That happened really fast. August disappeared. As I mentioned to you, we had a pretty busy day today, but all is well, thank goodness. And happy to be here with everybody and glad that people are joining us for the show.
Good. And folks, again, if you'd make some comments there on Facebook, I want to make sure that okay, thank you, Rick. You said that it sounds great, and I want to make sure that Blanca is sounding good as well. And yeah, here we are. Another month has gone by. We're now starting to entering into the fall, and believe it or not, we're actually starting to feel a little bit of fall here in southern Florida. And it's not that the temperature goes down, it's that the humidity starts to drop just a little bit. And so it's not quite as humid as it was in July and early August. And I was out having lunch with a friend yesterday and that we were commenting on that. But I know in some other parts of the country you're already starting to move into a little bit of the fall weather. And I was talking with a friend today up in Pennsylvania, and they're getting the after effects of that Hurricane Ida. They've got massive rain going on with some flooding, and they had tornado watches. They had some really serious tornado watches today in the Philadelphia area. So yeah, but other than that, here in Florida, all is well. And Blanca, anything that you would like to add to the comments of how you are or what's going on in Atlanta or whatever you would like to share with us? So.
Well, a lot's going on everywhere, of course, but we're still, trying to maintain a clear mind and a strong sense of good can come from this. We're going through a dark space, but at the end of the tunnel, as they say, is a light. But I think there's light right now already if you really know what to look for.
Yeah. So you bet. Okay. Well, folks, I'm ready just to kind of go ahead and share with what we're going to talk about here tonight, and it'll be a short program tonight. I wanted to just give a brief update, folks. Okay, I couldn't pre-announce in advance, but I did make a quick trip out to Sedona where I connected with some of the folks that are out there, and again I had connection with my folks, with the currency exchange. And the best way we can say this is that, it was a couple months ago we started saying, it's anytime now, day to day. Well, and we had figured out why it was not coming out day to day. And what really had taken place was there are some disagreements at the people at the very, very top. And when I was in Sedona, I met with this wonderful friend of mine. We became very good friends when I lived in Sedona. And her name is Barbara Joy, and she is an absolute master. If you want to sit down and have someone and have what I call an intuitive session or intuitive reading for you, she's the best. I trust her immensely. The sessions I've had with her are absolutely wonderful. They're very, very strong. She always brings through, what you call your guardians, your angels, or etc., whoever, for the things that you need to hear. So I had a session with her, and again, we had some of the discussions about what was going on in the currency exchange and why some of the stuff was happening. And in their terms, they basically said, well, there are some disagreements that are going on at the very top, and the best way to explain it is there's a whole lot of chiefs and not enough Indians. In essence, they're still disagreeing about who was totally in charge and who wanted to run the show. And it appears they have finalized on that. Now, that's all I can say about that for now. But that was some of the reasons that it's there. But again, I want to reiterate, the money is there. It's in the bank accounts. It's just a matter of when it's going to be released for us. And we have to remember, this is not a date-driven release event. This is an event-driven release. It's being driven by specific events that are transpiring. Now, don't ask me what those events are. I don't know. And remember, as I said, it is a step of 3 stages. There's a 3-stage process. And my friend who's in touch with those people at the top, she will basically receive funds in the first stage. Those of us in the currency exchange, we don't get anything until stage 3. And I have no idea how long it takes to go from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3. It could be 2 weeks, it could be 4 months. So don't ask me, I don't know. Okay. I have a hunch though, it's going to take a little bit longer than what we would like, because they basically, I think what they want to do is they want to test each step of each stage to make sure it continues to be safe to move the money without any interference or attack from what we would call cabal sources. So that's what's happening on the exchange issue. Let me share with you a little bit more about what happened in my visit with Barbara Joy. It was last week or the week before, I introduced you to a new author, Frederick Dodson, and it's called Reality, Creation, and Manifestation. I haven't read the physical book, but I have been listening to it on audio, and I'm almost done with it. And as you can see, this is not a small book, folks. We're talking almost 800 pages. I have never, ever come across anybody who explains the process about how we are the ones who create our world experiences, and we are the ones that create our reality, and how we do it. And we are the ones that can create the things that we want. He gives it to you in a step-by-step process. He talks about what you need to do, the proper mindset that you have to have, and how you not only visualize it, but you have to feel it and see it beginning to take place. And then he also begins to explain to you, if it's not material, if it's not manifesting for you, why, some of the things that you might be doing that can be holding up that process. And he talks somewhat even about when it takes time versus stuff that can happen quickly. Now, you've heard me talk a lot about A.R. Borden and what is called the LERM process, Light Encoded Reality Matrix. And that is taking the manifestation, law of attraction process and making stuff appear instantly on the spot. And it was in the session that I had with Barbara Joy, and I was talking about this, and they had come through and had basically said that the work of Dodson and the work of A.R. Borden, they reflect each other, and these are going to be some of the absolute best resource materials that are out there that are available to us as humanity to be able to read through and understand that. When I was in the session, I also got some instruction, coming from my angelic guides about how I personally needed to start doing some more work on having a deep respect and attraction to what is called the divine feminine. Now, ladies, I know you get that and you understand that. But let's be honest, as men, we have lived in a world that has been a masculine, man-controlled, dominated world. And yes, I'm using man as gender. We as men have been the ones that dominated and controlled this world. And we have lived in what is called the masculinity, the masculine expression. And what we have done in many ways has shut down or minimized or disregarded the feminine aspect in our world. And if I can speak to the men, it's time for us to step up and understand the divine feminine, because it's in the balance. Remember, we live in a world of what is called unity consciousness. Everything is oneness. Everything is one. And when we bring the masculine in, have a domination over the feminine, there's no longer oneness. There's deep separation that is there. We've lived in this world of pain and suffering and war and confusion and anxiety and fear because of this imbalance of the energy that we are creating. Excuse me. This is the era that we get to bring back the balance. And ladies, I want to say thank you for being patient with me if I've expressed myself a little too strongly. It was really interesting because in the session that I had, my angelic guides had come through and says, you understand the importance of the divine feminine in this incarnation, in this lifetime. But you've had past lifetimes where you have been a very strong, dominant, controlling male figure, and you had very little respect for the feminine. And that is still there. There's aspects of it that are still there in your subconscious memory of your past lifetimes. And that is what you need to work through and kind of clearing and healing that out so you can bring more balance, because we remember it's the subconscious where we live our life from on a daily basis. A.R. Borden taught us that the conscious mind only processes about 18 to 20 data bits of information per second. But the subconscious mind is processing 60 to 80 million data bits of information per second. And it's there that is where we have built our memory, and those memories come from our subconscious mind, and that's how we live out our daily lives. And so it's important that we bring back the balance of the masculine and the feminine. Now, somebody had already on Facebook had said, what's the title of the book? Reality Creation and Manifestation by Frederick Dodson. And so it was there that my guides had also told me to go back and get into and read this other book that I had bought about 4 years ago, but I had kind of ignored it. And this is the one that I really want to say, men, you need to read this book. We need to read this book. And it's called The Sophia Code. A living transmission from the Sophia Dragon tribe. Now, that's a very positive term, how they use that. What it is, Sophia in this book comes forth as the feminine form of what we would call God or prime creator, and it's in the feminine form of that. It's the divine feminine that is coming out in the book, and and the message in there is absolutely wonderful. I've started reading the book a couple days ago, and it's one of those that it just jumps at me. It's just popping out at me. So I get it. The positive thing for me is that I know I'm picking up what I was told that I needed to step into to help bring forward the things that I want to do. And in this book, I want to just read a little bit where Sophia, it's predominantly a channel book, and where she's coming through, she's talking about we're moving into this new age of humanity. And this is the golden age of miracles that it's time for us as humanity to start stepping into. And this book says such great depth to it. It's one of those that I read 3 pages and I have to stop and realize, what did I just take in? I have to stop and process what I had just read because it's so deep and so strong. I want to read a couple paragraphs where she talks about this golden age. It says, a golden age is a cycle of time in which quantum evolutionary leaps become accessible to large populations of humanity seeking to embody the Sophia Christ consciousness. Humanity is now being prepared to participate in a new golden age cycle here on earth. The dawning of this next golden age cycle is unlike any other. This revolutionary age begins with an unusually high volume of incarnated master souls, that's us, that are ready to surf this quantum wave with you. Now, many advanced souls that have traveled great distance across the cosmos are here by our side for initiating this global awakening. And it says, your practice as a living master, and this is what we get to be. Our practice as a living master is to recognize, behold, and bless the masters that walk beside us. And what that means is they are here to help us move into this golden age, this age of miracles, and become the miracle workers so it becomes common practice. This is the age for us to start moving into that. And folks, this is a part. This is a part of all this money coming forward. Again, it's not about the money. It's staying in a lower vibration of consciousness of an old age and an old era. This is a new era of time where we are beginning to be set free from all of our past problems, domination, lower vibration, consciousness, and awareness, and moving into this new, balanced, healthy, golden age of miracles. This is what we get to move toward and what we are moving forward with. So, let me see. Those are the things that happened to me. And also during that time, I had, during that intuitive session, I had asked, my angelic guides, okay, are we moving then into a financial collapse? Because of the COVID scenario and what it's doing to our economy? And they said, yes, expect that to happen. Expect that you're going to be moving into a very strong financial downturn. And we are already starting to see, on a pragmatic basis, this is starting. It was just yesterday. I read an article, and this was put out by mainstream media, that right now in the San Francisco Oakland Bay area, which is one of the largest shipping container ports in the world, there are about 45 to 50 ships sitting out in the ocean waiting to come in and be unloaded. And the port director says that never happens. It's rare for there to be one ship sitting out there in the ocean that cannot come in and unload their containers. And these are the ships that bring the containers that come from Asia. And we need to remember about 1/3 of all the items that we purchase and consume come from Asia. And there are a lot of food staple items that are in there. What this means is the ships aren't unloading their containers. The containers are not being put on the trains and the trucks, and they aren't being brought to market. And that's happening right now. And here's why they said they can't unload the containers. They don't have the employees. They have either quit coming to work or they're sick with COVID. So already we're starting to see the impact of what is happening in this COVID sickness, how it is reducing the workforce. And by reducing the workforce, it's going to basically stop the economic engine because people aren't going to work. And we're seeing this already. Folks, now this is my pragmatic opinion. I would say make sure you stock up on food sources and basic items, because if this continues to build, there's going to be a food shortage in the stores, because there are not going to be workers or truck drivers or employees to be able to get it on the shelves of the stores for you and I to purchase. And that is already happening, because the ports in San Francisco and Oakland said this has never, ever, ever happened in the history of their ports, which goes back almost 100 years. They have never had this happen before. This is the first time they've ever had that many ships backed up where they couldn't unload them. And it's all come down to that there's a work shortage. There's a worker shortage. And here's what's interesting. When I flew out to Arizona, I'm going through the airport in Miami. Workers needed, hiring, needing employees. I get to the airport in Phoenix, one place after another saying, we are hiring, we are hiring. I go to Sedona, which is basically a resort hotel city. all over. They're hiring workers. They have a worker shortage. When I checked into my resort complex where I stayed, they basically said they would not be able to come and do all of their normal cleaning and house maintenance in the room every day because they don't have enough workers. We're starting to see this happening everywhere, folks. This means it's going to create a downturn in the economy, and it could create some shortage of goods and services. So just be aware of that and prepare for that on your own. So I think that's what I wanted to say for now. Blanca, let's go ahead and go on to you. Why don't you share with us your thoughts and comments about that?
Well, you put a lot on the table as usual, Dave, and thanks for sharing about your adventures in Sedona. It's very nice that you share something. It's rather intimate, and it's really interesting that you're going to be reading the Sophia Code. I had the opportunity to read that some time ago, and I noticed it was a distinctly feminine energy text. And now females can get a lot out of it too, because really in the matrix we've been totally put out of balance. So
Yes.
to think that all females are balanced, that's incorrect. We've got a lot of healing to do as well. So if you're a female, you'll get a lot out of this book as well. You will learn the power of the divine feminine, what its gifts are. And most of the beings that she talks about went through their own journey and their own challenges with the matrix that they were in and how they overcame it. So this is something that's common to men and women, that there are challenges in life, and there's programming in the matrix about how to address it, whether you're female or male. And so I think it's good. So I admire the fact that you're going through this book, because it is very much about the divine feminine, and the fact that you're enjoying it and getting a lot out of it. I guess they did steer you in the correct direction. So
Thank you.
it'll be interesting to see how that gets integrated very much. And so yes, I think it's a book that the females will enjoy. The men, it will be a challenge unless you're ready for it, like it looks like Dave is ready for it. It's a very, very interesting book. And also, if people aren't that much into either channeling or other beings, if you enjoy things like mythologies, etc., if you take it on that level, it's a very interesting read as well. So that's that on that. Now, in terms of the challenges about shortages and all, hopefully our listeners who tend to pay attention to alternative media and all that have heard about this and have started to prep, and but now it's getting pretty intense. And this data that you provided is absolutely correct. And the people probably heard about the truck drivers who went on strike in Australia. Of course, they went on strike because Australia is just really clamping down on the people there with their little medical tyranny game, and so the truck drivers here in the United States are talking about also possibly doing a strike. And now, fortunately, not every state has clamped down on the truckers, but they're already seeing some encroachments on being to drive from state to state, and so they may want to get ahead of the curve of the tyranny that could be imposed on them. And so they're talking about going on strike too. So now if the truck drivers in the United States go on strike, then that adds to shortages, etc. So just in case they do, you may want to have your provisions ready. And again, not in fear, but more not try to generate fear. And I know Dave isn't either. It's more just a practical thing. You know, it's just like when people hear a hurricane is coming or a tornado, what do? They stock up for what they think they may need. And, you know, this is the same thing. And if it doesn't happen, well, it's good. You could still, you know, use your provisions. But it's better to be prepared.
Absolutely. This is the era. You know, in the Sophia Code book, we're talking about we're moving into the age of the golden age. Well, before the golden age can come in, the old age has to fade out. In essence, it has to collapse. And we've been told over and over again for all of these funds to come in through the currency exchange, or whether it's currency or bond purchases or whatever, that's the money to bring in the new financial system. But the old financial system, our current cabal-controlled financial system, has to collapse for the new one to come in. So when we start seeing all this drama beginning to take place, remember, don't own it, don't participate with it, don't get into judgment about it, rise above it, and just let it be. Let it be there, and keep your thought vibrational energy at a much higher level than the events that are going on around us. Rise above it, let it be, and then we are the ones that get to come out of it. And it's interesting because she addresses that also in the Sophia Code book about when you rise above and you stay in a high vibrational thought process, that is the empowering place. That's the moment that you become empowered. That's the moment that you step into your best and you step into your calling, you step into your purpose, and life begins to make so much sense for you. We become enamored and empowered when we stay in those high vibrational states and don't fall into all these problems happening around us in the world. Any other comments there, Blanca?
No, that's very correct, and this is a theme that we return to, and I believe it's valuable to return to this because I would say this is where the main challenge is right now, especially for people who are wanting to welcome in the new, like for example the new abundance, and so it's challenging because we still see the matrix before us, and we also see some of these very dark things, very disappointing things, these injustices and criminalities. But the fact that we're seeing it means that the matrix is no longer hidden. And then when we can see it, we can dismantle it. Now, the reason why the matrix, in my opinion, is teetering, tottering is because we're no longer believing it. We're no longer supporting it. And that's kind of a proof that it's our energy, our intentions that create it. So if we're no longer believing it, supporting it, paying attention to it, fearing it, hating it, and instead we're loving the new, we're loving the new world that we're going to be creating and welcoming, we're loving the new us, the us that can maintain a high frequency, the new us that can have an open and loving heart. And so this is where I believe we should focus our attention and our efforts. And you've shared many books, many techniques to be able to do that. But I think the more that we can aim our energy in that direction, the better for us. I had lunch with a very good friend of mine. I love her to death, and she's very strong. And but I noticed her in a very different frame of mind because, unfortunately, this dismantling of the matrix with all its controversies and issues is causing a split in her family. And she's not the only one. I hear this constantly, Dave.
Yeah.
I hear this constantly. Oh, my sisters don't believe what I believe, or they're calling me this conspiracy theorist, or I try to give them information and they tell me it's, whatever. And she and her sisters were close, and now there's a divide. And she took it to heart so much that I think she's actually in a minor depression. And this is my friend who is always, can-do, optimistic, energetic. And I thought, poor thing, she's just taking this to heart too much.
Yeah.
So we had to talk about it. She wasn't quite ready to hear some of the things that you and I have been sharing. She's still too close to it. It's still too painful. And I said, well, how about we have lunch a little more often and you can tell me about this stuff,
Yeah.
So we're going to have to maybe even help some of the people that we thought were strong, optimistic, etc. I think she's pretty clear. She knows what the score is, right? But it just breaks her heart that her family is not there, doesn't see it, and she's taking it a bit too hard, and it's affecting her state. And so it just reminded me that even though we get ourselves together, we know how to get above it. We may feel that either negativity or energy or judgment or fear, but we immediately catch it and we raise our frequency, get in a state of love or appreciation. Even if we can do that, maybe some of those close to us, even they know what we know, they know some of the truth we know, they may need a little help just kind of crossing that bridge to where they can start getting back to the frequency level that they're used to. She was always at a very optimistic frequency, but I think this really got to her because she's so close to her
Mm.
sisters.
Well, it was a couple months ago, one of the messages that came through with the Palladians through Barbara Marciniak, and they did say we are moving into an era that there's going to be a massive divide with humanity. And the COVID scenario, the vaccine scenario, the wearing the mask scenario is what is creating that more than anything else. Because you may get into complete divisions, like you said, within your family where they're saying, did you get the shot? And, some are saying yes and some are saying no. And there's a big division over that. And are you wearing the mask all the time or are you not? Major differences in opinions on that about how people feel about that. When you are in a scenario like with what Blanca just mentioned with a friend or a family member, don't argue about them with it. Just let them be. Let them have their opinion. Because here's what happens. If you don't attack them, and if you give them room to have their opinion, when the truth does come around, then they're far more receptive to receive from you. It's something that they need to discover on their own. It's not something that we can press on them or preach to them or push upon them. They have to discover it on their own and just let them be and continue to just love them right as they are and where they are. So, well, Blanca, are we ready then to let some callers come in?
Yes, and it looks like someone might be in the queue, but why don't you give them the phone number
Right.
if anyone else wants
Folks,
to join
if you would
in?
like to call in, folks, and if you have a question or if you'd like to make a comment, the number there is 515-605-9356. Again, that's 515-605-9356, and you press 1 on your touch-tone phone, and that lets us know that you would like to, make some comments or got some questions. And looks like we do have one person that has come in early, and that person is from area code 203. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you on the air. Area code 203, you're on the air. Do you have a question or a
Hi,
comment?
Dave.
Hello, who do we have here?
Yes, hi. This is Peter from Connecticut.
Oh,
and,
yes, okay. Hi, Peter.
Hi. I like your call tonight. It opens up a lot of interesting subjects. Is somebody in a can't-win situation, if they're required to get a vaccine shot to keep their job, what do you do? If you can't keep they won't let
Well,
you.
I would say, now I'm only giving my opinion on this. If you are in a situation
Yes.
where your employer is forcing you to get the vaccine, you have legal recourse. You have very strong legal recourse, but you're going to have to get a good attorney that understands that, and you're going to have to basically, the first thing you can do is write a letter to them and saying that what they are doing is absolutely illegal. You have no basis to force that. You have no knowledge of that, and that you will threaten to take them to court and sue them immensely for all monetary damages and more if they force you to be vaccinated to keep your job. They
Even
cannot
government
prove
positions.
that your employer, unless they have absolute 100% definable physical medical proof that it's required, what they're doing is entirely illegal, and I don't know a business out there that has that kind of proof.
How about government, like schools and the governor of Lamont from Connecticut
Yes,
is backing it up. Yeah,
I know. Now,
like in hospitals and blah blah blah.
Masks
There's all kinds of people
are a little
requiring it
bit
now.
different. Masks are different than basically taking the vaccine. That's a much harder position to be able to say I'm not wearing a mask. I mean, you would have a much more difficult time defending that. But the vaccine and the shot, they are forcing you to take something into your body when every body reacts differently to a type of a vaccine, and they don't have any hard proof to do it. All they're doing is accepting the status quo situation, and it's creating serious problems. But remember, every person has to deal with that on their own. Now, what was recommended, again, by one of the previous sources I had on the program is if you can get a group together, if you are in a job situation, there are a number of you that will come together, and all of you will threaten to leave the job and resign if you force a vaccination, The business can't stand that. They're out of business if their employees walk away. As an individual, they can come after you, but as a group, it's much more difficult.
Like strike against your employer or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I did read this one post that there was a dentist office, and the dentist had told the employee that they were going to be required to be vaccinated, and the employee went to 4 of the other staff members, and all 4 of them came together and says, if you force us to be vaccinated, we're all leaving. And just like that, the dentist flipped and said, I'm sorry. Because she would have been out of business. She would not have had enough employees to run her business. Major businesses are already running into employee shortages. And now if they're going to start forcing this, you are in a very strong, powerful position if you come together as a group and saying, we're not going to tolerate that. So, and everybody has to deal with it differently. And
what about immigrants? Are we better off letting immigrants into the
What's
country? Are we better off having more immigrants come into the country to help resolve the employment dilemma?
No, because this is a temporary situation where people are choosing not to work, or they're becoming severely sick because of the COVID situation. You bring immigrants into the country, it takes them time to work through the process to be employable, to replace these employees in skilled labor positions or skilled work positions. You see, most of them coming in, if they're coming in especially from Central and South America, a lot of them don't speak good English. Now you have to get them qualified and skilled in to become skilled in that workforce. Now, please don't in any way think that I'm anti-immigration. We are a country of immigrants, but here's what's different of what's taking place in the politics. Are they legal immigrants versus illegal immigrants? That's the big question. And the vast majority of all of our family members and ancestors, they all came in as legal immigrants. Both of my grandparents immigrated to the United States legally through the immigration process.
Yeah.
See? And unless you're a Native American, you're basically of an immigrant status. But if we go back, we will look at the vast majority of all of our ancestors worked through the legal immigration process. And we have always been a country that has welcomed people in the legal immigration process. It's when you got 5,000 to 10,000 a day coming across the border illegally that it creates serious problems.
One quick question about the currency exchange. Let's just say, for instance, I know somebody as a dentist that has bought a lot of dinar currency, and he signed up with Adam Montana's newsletter and stuff like that. Now, should he expect to be able to exchange his millions of dollars in dinar currency?
No.
Being signed up with Adam Montana?
No.
Or is
No.
that a false expectation?
Totally false. I've been saying for close to 5 years, dinar is done. You have to have a buyer first. Never go out and buy any dinar, dong, or zim until you know you got a buyer. Otherwise, you're buying something that's just going to become worthless wallpaper. Dinar was done almost about 5 years ago. There are no more dinar buyers because the dinar was vastly overprinted, oversold, and counterfeited. So the buyers don't buy it anymore. If this guy's sitting on a ton of dinar, he's out of luck.
Yes. Yeah.
Totally out of luck. Now,
he doesn't want to listen to any of my advice.
Okay.
You know, he's got his attorney holding on to his dinar. And, it's over. Yeah, he got 12 million or more dinar. And I told him I tried to help him about signing up on a group or something. I actually tried to get him and sign up into, like, your group or one of the other groups that I'm in. And he's not receptive. And I don't know. It's just a total loss of investment money. He paid a lot of money for that.
If you have the opportunity to politely ask him, who's paying you? Where are they getting the money? Where are they getting the money to pay you?
He assumes a public RV.
Huh?
No during a public RV, this eventually should happen.
Where's
is
the
what they're
United
saying.
States getting the trillions of dollars to pay for a public RV?
Well, like Ray and Tony, they keep preaching all.
I know.
That's
Do you,
and
Ray
it's
and
false. It's
Ray
all
and Tony
fake
keep
information.
thinking that Iraq is going to pay this inflated rate for their dinar. You mean Iraq is just out of the goodness of their heart is going to give away about $5 to $10 trillion to just people who bought this dinar, and they're just going to give all that away? That's crazy. That's crazy.
I don't get it.
I
I
know.
really don't get what they're talking about.
At the end of the day, somebody has to buy it from you, and where are they getting the money to do that? That's the bottom line question. And if they can't answer that question for you in an authoritative manner, I'd say don't touch it. Don't even go there.
Very disturbing how they're misleading so many people.
Well, it is.
It's sickening whenever I hear.
I know. So it is.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Alrighty. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Really
Yep.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey,
Okay.
Dave.
Yes.
Hey, Dave. We just had this conversation with another friend of ours whose two sons working for different companies are in that same boat. It's just an amazing thing that we're going through. We had our discussion, but fortunately, one of them, the company is looking at a religious exemption, and the other one at a medical exemption. So some of these companies are actually taking those and taking a look. We don't know what they're going to
Yes.
decide.
Right.
So that's one way to go. The other thing, you've probably heard of Catherine Austin Fitz.
Oh yeah.
Correct?
Yeah. She's great.
She's awesome. She's got great information, and her website is Solari.com. That's S as in Sam, OLARI.com. And she's got these forms. They're called like due diligence forms, and try the medical exemption, try the religious, and if it's still no go, give the employers. They've got these disclosure forms for family. They've got it for employers. They've got it for school. And basically, these forms are something you give the company, and you're inquiring how much due diligence they've done, and if they're confident of the due diligence they've done on these remedies, then they take the liability for them mandating it for you to take it.
Absolutely.
And she has reported a lot of success with this as well. So there's various options. Now, this is what you and I have been saying about the new. Now, if you're going to stay in fear and helplessness and victim consciousness and outrage and whatever judgment about these tyrannical mandates, that's not going to get you out of it. So the new is empowerment and solutions, bravery, and seeing through the matrix. It's this whoop on huff and puff and blow your house down kind of thing, really, if you really think about it. And there are remedies. And also what you said is very good, too. What if a third of these employees are saying no go? Are they going to let a third of these employees go? It's almost like a game of chicken. They're playing to see how long people are going to say no, all right? And then the employer says, okay, if you feel that way about it. So there are remedies there, and we just have to, take a look for them and put them out there. That's all I wanted to
Now,
share about that one.
Somebody also on my Facebook page just gave a link for a religious exemption certificate. And folks, those are very good.
Uh-huh.
You can get your religious exemptions, you can get your medical exemptions. And then the other thing is, if they're going to force you, then draw up a legal statement that they are taking responsibility to pay for the medical damages and charges or whatever process that would cause for you should there be repercussions. Force them to be responsible for their actions. And there's lots of things you can do to do that. Now, again, Blanca, you mentioned Catherine Austin Fitz. She's absolutely wonderful. And her website is Solari.com. S-O-L-A-R-I. Solari.com. And you can go there and get copies of these forms if you need them. So, okay? Okay, are we ready to go on to our next caller?
Yes, your first one was so intriguing. I forgot to screen them.
Yeah, that was
I was
Peter.
just
Okay.
listening
All
to
right.
what we're talking to
Okay.
you.
We're going to area code 605. Okay. We're coming up. Let's see. We're coming up, coming up. Area code 605. You're on the air. What can we help you with?
Yep, I hear you. I hear you. No, I hear you. My name's Joe.
Okay.
I came here to find out your particular philosophies about current events.
About
You
what?
said you were for legal immigration. Current events, is that right?
Yes. You about
Okay.
you say you wanted to hear
You were
about
for
legal
legal.
immigration?
Yeah, I heard you talk about legal immigration.
Yes. There's a legal
I'm not
process
for it.
to go through our immigration.
I
You
know
know,
that.
unless we're
I
Native
know.
American, we've all
I'm
been
not
there
for
with
it.
our. You get it. I don't need to say anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
We had even before the Obama administration, since the government they mishandle statistics, we've had over 100 million people, Americans, out of work for almost 2 decades. That's not considered part of the workforce. It's not considered part of the employment statistics which they give us. When you have over 100 million Americans out of work, you do not need any more legal immigrants, and you certainly do not need any more illegal immigrants.
Okay, except
And the
let me
argument
interrupt
about
you.
that,
We do not have 100 million. There's only
okay,
330 million people in this country, and that includes babies and children. So what you're saying is that one out of every
hmm
three people in the country is here illegally and out of work? No, that's not true. There's nowhere close to that many.
I did not, no, I did not say 105 illegals.
You said 100
I
million.
said
You said
the
100 million.
statistics
That's the term you used. Should we go back and listen to it?
I said over 100 million Americans are out of work. Okay,
We
they're
don't
not
have 100
part of the
million
labor.
Americans out of work. Unless you're counting
How many do you
children
think
and
are out of work?
babies. Unless you're counting children and babies.
I know we have I know we have over 330 million Americans living in the United States.
Yes.
How many millions do you believe are not working
I don't know, but it's not
prior to the
100 million.
pandemic?
What you're saying is that one out of every three living, breathing people in this country are out of work. I don't think so. No.
That's right. They have been out of work. They have also been found jobs. Then have been laid off, fired, off and on throughout the years. There's a recurring cyclical factor. Over 100 million people at any one given time is out of work. Yes, 1/3 of the population.
Okay, well, first of all,
Okay,
I'm not going to
including
debate.
babies.
Let's get past that issue, okay? You and I disagree on that. I'm not going
Okay,
to debate that. This is my program. It's not your platform to push your position, okay? Respect that.
then why do you want callers? If
I
callers
I am
are
willing to
agree
hear
with you,
opinions,
then
but I'm not when there's a
okay.
differences of an opinion and there's a strong debate because some people want to use my program as their platform to push their issues. And I don't allow that. I allow
All
questions to
right,
come up, I
I
allow
agree with
comments
you.
to come up, and I'm willing to be respectful on that, but I'm not going to allow people
I
to get
am
out of world
agreeing
and
with
stuff.
you.
Okay?
Okay. I'm agreeing with you. If
Okay.
you want to go past it, I didn't argue with you about
Okay.
it. That's fine.
Well, my apologies
But
if I came on
regardless
too
of whatever
strong.
the,
But
no problem, no
what
problem.
other comments do you
But
have?
there's too many. Mm.
Any other comments or
Um,
questions?
you said because, yeah, I have some more comments.
Sure.
You said because we are a nation built on immigration. Unless we're Native Americans. Every country is built upon that country having been founded upon war. Even the Indians that were here, they were warlike and they fought wars amongst each other. I am not justifying the fact that America was built upon the stealing of their particular land, but their land was also stolen from one another and ancestors prior to their becoming Native Americans. Again, it's not a justification, but also the fact that when somebody says, well, we're all immigrants, we should allow everybody in here, even people who are seeking asylum, that's irrelevant. It's an irrelevant argument. The thing is that when you have a culture, that culture has to exist when the people in that nation are feeling unified with the fact that we have multicultural diversity today isn't helping America. I just learned from somebody yesterday who had talked to somebody who lives in New York City that he that he learned that there were in one particular section of New York City, not New York State, there were over 125 different languages being spoken. Now, I don't know if that's true. That sounds to me to be as much of an exaggeration as the 105 million Americans sounds to you.
Yeah.
I don't understand how there can be 125 different languages being spoken. But if it is, without English being the national language and the official language, people do not want to become assimilated. I don't know how many immigrants that you've come across, that you've talked to, that you've lived with, etc. They do not, as a rule, don't care about assimilation. Their children may, because they have to go through the public school and private school educational system. But the immigrants that have come over here don't care about assimilating. They care about retaining their language,
Well,
their culture.
There
They
are
shouldn't
there are
abandon it.
some, yes, I would agree there are some, but I still think the massive that come in do want to assimilate because they've come here to better themselves from the situation they had at home. And because the opportunity, remember, this is still the land of opportunity. It's not the land of guarantee, it's the land of opportunity. They have the opportunity to make things for themselves. And there are lots and lots of immigrants that do that, that have come in the last 30, 40, and 50 years. Where I live here in southern Florida, Miami is the largest multicultural city in America. And it's interesting, even when you go into the Miami airport, all the signs are in dual languages, English and Spanish. And there's more people speaking Spanish in the Miami airport than speaking English. But yet, almost all the Spanish people there that speak Spanish, they speak English as well. They know they need to basically assimilate. But it is a very multicultural city, and it operates just fine. Miami does.
Well, the fact that they have dual languages, like billboards or documents that are sent to them through the mail by the government, that shows that they're not assimilating. They may be speaking two languages, and that's fine in terms of having the ability to do that. But if they're not speaking English, and the people that you're talking about, who are mainly Cuban in Florida, they have their Cuban accent. A lot of them don't, but a lot of them do. And a lot of them do not think of America as native-born Americans. Native-born Americans think of America as apple pie, football, baseball, etc., to assimilate. And it doesn't matter if you're born in Florida or if you're born in Maine. You still think of yourselves and each other as Americans. But the Cuban Americans that you're talking about don't. Again,
That's not
it's
true. I
obvious
disagree with
when
you.
you
I
have
live here
something-
with them. I associate with them.
Okay.
I don't experience that. You're making some very strong judgments on statements that you don't know.
Well, so are you if you're going to go by your empirical evidence simply because you've known some of the Cuban Americans in your particular lifetime.
Well, first
When
of
other
all,
people are talking
the
about the
people
same
in
thing-
Miami that speak
Yeah.
Spanish, they're not all Cubans. They come from all over Central and South America and the Caribbean. The Miami airport is the largest airport in the country that moves people from Central, South America, and the Caribbean. It is a massive multicultural airport, and you can just see that by going in there. And so, I mean, these people, when people come into the United States from South America, they predominantly come into two cities, Miami or Houston. That's their drop off, that's their first entry points. And then they go from there. And so, I mean, you go down, I mean, they're from all over. They're not just Cubans.
Well, the major population of the Spanish in Florida would be Cuban. Now, if you're going to talk about the rest of the people
It
coming
used
over
to
the
be
last
that
10,
way, but it's
15
not
years
that
coming
way.
from
It
Central
used,
America.
it used to be that way, but it's not that way anymore.
Okay.
I live here. I know.
Okay. So, here you have, you're experiencing, again, Spanish people coming from Central America, Latin America. Spanish people are the only people I know who can be here, have 3 generations worth of Americans, and they still sound like like they just dropped off
Okay,
the turnip.
I'm going to come back to what
They're
is
not
your
assimilating
point?
them.
What is your questions? You've been on the air with me now for more than 10 minutes.
I am saying that Americans, that immigration is not good for America, period.
Okay, that's your
Regardless
opinion.
of whether they're legal or illegal.
That's your opinion.
Yes.
Okay?
And the reason is for this, that's right. And the reason is, it's the same principle as in physics. As in physics, two bodies cannot occupy
Okay.
the same space. at the
Let's
same
wrap
time.
this conversation up
Immigrants
because you've
come
been
in-
on the air with me for more than 10
I
minutes.
am trying to. I'm trying to.
Well, you're
When
you're
immigrants are
repeating
here,
yourself over and
they're
over
taking-
again.
Whoa, okay. When Americans come here, they're taking the jobs of Americans. Is that clear enough?
You've already said that now about 3 or 4 times. How many more times do you need to say it?
That's the first time I've said it. That very first time I've said it. I
Well,
said
you've
Americans
inferred to
don't
that many
belong here.
times.
That's what I said.
Okay, let's finish up.
Okay, I tell you what. Never mind, because you're not listening. I know it's your show. Good luck to your show.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, folks, lots of
That was
exaggerations and a lot of comments that he just doesn't have. I don't need to say anymore. Blanca, you were going to say something.
Well, it's interesting for me to listen to since my parents were immigrants. And, you know, I consider myself very American, and my parents,
I
my
know.
dad heard it, like, bust a gut. But I think anytime, now this is in general about any topic, anytime someone makes a generality, you just need one example to prove them wrong. So this is not a strong way to present an argument if you're saying everyone, all, everybody, etc. And so that already kind of makes it a little bit wobbly thing. And so if indeed someone feels like he does that illegal and legal immigration is not good for America, I think you can state your case, etc. But once you start saying that all, you know, immigrants do this or all do that, then it gets wobbly. You see, because you just need to name one, like my dad and my mom.
I know.
Look totally, you know, they're apple pie and they're tamales too. So this gets very interesting, and so it's a touchy subject. I think many people are concerned for the fate of our nation, and so we'll see certain things that we want to diagnose as a problem, and perhaps it is, right? And so we've got to think about, well, what's the real dynamic in this immigration thing? I think the fact that we have open border policy is probably something I would be more concerned about. Yes, I'm concerned that there's a lot of unvetted people coming into our nation, and I'm concerned that a federal government whose main charge is to protect the borders is not doing it. So I would rather attack the source of the problem than, you know, some of the symptoms. That's just kind of my approach.
Yeah, no, I agree. And thank you, Blanca, for your comments. Because, folks, again, if you don't know, I mean, Blanca's parents immigrated from Mexico. She's Hispanic. And her parents were native Mexicans that immigrated into the United States. And didn't you say that you were born down in McClellan, right on the border?
No, I was born in Corpus Christi.
Oh, Corpus
I was raised
Christi.
in Chicago.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a very interesting thing. So my parents immigrated here legally, and they've been here close to 80 years. Raised, my brother and myself the American way, to school and
Sure,
college,
yeah.
etc. And they worked all their lives, and are retired. Very patriotic, my dad especially. And so it's just an interesting thing. And so it's funny. I mean, I grew up in Chicago, and by the time I was 6, I had eaten, Polish food at a Polish family table, speaking Polish, and I'm Cuban and Italian and Puerto Rican and Jewish families. And frankly, I think my life is richer for that experience. And all of those were, they were working class people, raising their families, paying their taxes, etc. And, I believe they were a positive fabric to the society, you see. Now, I know a lot of Americans who are born and raised in America on the soil and may not be positive contributions to the society. But I'm not going to say all Americans who are born here don't know what they have, and they're lazy and they take their country for granted, and
Yeah.
they don't even know that their country's being taken over and their rights are being exploited because they don't even know their own concept. I don't say that kind of thing, you see, because as soon as I say all Americans, I'm a liar.
That's right. He was so exaggerating in so many different areas about his comments. Like he would say all this, all that, 103 million people unemployed. No, no. You're basically saying one out of every three living beings, including children and babies in this country, are unemployed. That's not the case.
Right. So there's some things, and I do know, and I can't now. There's some people, and I've heard their arguments about immigrants and immigration and all that. They're cogent arguments. I don't agree with them, right? But they don't go saying all and every, etc. like
I
that.
know.
No,
Yeah, so
they put their reasons and why they believe the impact on the country, the impact on the culture, and they make sense. Some of these things that they're saying. Again, I don't agree with them, but I can see there's a certain sort of logic and a certain what they're saying impacts the country the way they say they do. Now, whether that's good or bad, that's where we individually hold an opinion. You see, so but once you start, making totally, absolute statements, then it's a little tough to
yeah.
listen to someone.
Well, I think he kind of touched on my little sensitive point. This is when people come on the air and they're going to start extremely exaggerating and making exaggerating comments and attacking other people with they're all this way, they're all that way. I don't have much toleration for that, and I will pull the fact that this is my program, not your program. This is not your place to push your opinions that are so false on my program. I won't allow you to do that. So, and I can tell you right now, the vast majority of the listeners appreciate that. Because I get those. See, what most of you, what you don't know is that after the program is over, I will get a lot of emails or even comments on the Facebook about the program. So I hear what the listeners are saying and what's going on and what their opinions are, and so I try to be sensitive to that. And even already tonight, just on the Facebook page, I mean, I haven't seen one guy back up what he was saying. So, but that's neither here nor there. So. But I think look like we don't have anybody else there, Blanca, so we might be ready to call it a program tonight.
I think we're ready. Yes.
Okay. Well, folks, with all of that we had, even just a conversation there that might have a little bit of attention to it, and the stuff that I had mentioned earlier in the program that that things are being reported that they're not going to be going well. It's going to get kind of crazy here for a little bit. I want to end this program on a little bit of kind of a soft note and a cute note. I'd sent this out in my newsletter, I think it was maybe about a month or two ago, but this is about 1 minute long, and let's take
Don't
this in.
worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing's gonna be alright. I woke up this morning on my horizon. 3 little birds were on my doorstep, singing sweet songs, melody blowing through. And they said, this message is you. They said, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright.
Everything is going to be all right. Okay, Blanca, any concluding comments you'd like to make tonight?
It's going to be all right.
That's right. I love that little broadcast. So, okay, folks, we'll see you on the program next week again, and thanks for joining.